When it comes to printing your worksheets, you have two types of page orientations. You have portrait or landscape. To find out, just come up here, click on the page layout tab. You got your orientation in the page setup group, click on it. You've got your typical portrait, which is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Well, this is still an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, except it's turned sideways. So here you've got more height and less width, or you have more rows and less columns. Down here you have more columns that you can put in with less rows because the height is shortened. So before I decide whether portrait's going to work or landscape, for what I'm about to print here, let me go ahead and click off. I want to look at my print preview, as we went over in the previous training video. To look at my print preview, to see exactly what's going to print and where, come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Print. Over to the right, there's my print preview. Now, notice that I've got my columns here for all the records, except I'm missing two. It goes over to Benefit and Hours, and then it cuts off. If I come back up here and click on the File tab, the moment I go to Print Preview, it's going to add a bunch of little dashes here. And what that means when I go back to normal view is that that's what's being cut off. In other words, this is going to be page 1. It's not omitting these two columns, it's just going to cut them and not include them on page 1 because of the page orientation. It's only going for height, in other words for more rows, as opposed to width, which would include more columns, and because it can't include these last two columns, it's going to show me here what's going to be cut off as far as the first page goes, a page break if you will, and take the last two columns and put them on another page, which isn't really going to help me because if I go back to File, to Print, and I'm looking here for Max Klinger, I've got his record here and I can go easily from one column to the next, except the last two columns, rate and gross, are cut off. Where are they? We'll come down here and let's go from page to page. So the first page contains all of the records that can squeeze in to these columns here that can fit in the page orientation of portrait. Go to the second page. Again, it still includes all those records. It's a spillover except the last two columns. Well, where do the last two columns print? They print on the remaining pages of 3 and 4. And you can see up here we've got rate and gross. Now, these are for all the records within my worksheet there. And because there's more under the columns rate and gross, it continues over to page 3 and 4. But they're not together. So if I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, I think Max Klinger, let me go back to page 3. Well, he was the first record, so here it is right here, but keeping track of all the other records and, how they match up here, it's not going to work. So one thing I can do is change the page orientation and making the width include more columns, but it will shorten the height, which is okay, as long as I can keep my data when I go from left to right to match them all up with the person's name or the employee's name all the way across as I do, or as I can see when I'm on the, let me click the File tab to go back to my normal view. As I can see here, going from left to right, keeping them all together, all the columns, so they're not being split. So changing the page orientation, you can do it one of a few places here. You can either come up here on the Page Layout tab, click on the orientation, and go down to Landscape, or you can do it from the File tab, go to Print, and at the last minute, if you want to change the orientation, there it is, Portrait, click on it. Let's go to Landscape. Shortens the height, but it opens up so I can see more width, or include all the columns. There we go. Now it includes rate and gross. So if I go to page 2, the rest of the records spill over, but it still includes those last two columns because we have more space or more width here for rate and gross. So I can go ahead and click Print because what you see here is what's going to come off the printer. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.